Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got our Thursday show, our normal show lined up. Our good friend Brent Beaird will be joining us shortly. In the second portion, we'll crank up the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup, talking a little high school hoops. But first, let's go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our good friend out of Jacksonville, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, I'm doing well. Always good to be on with you. And yes, we have completed 567 games, which is amazing. Just finished a national championship. But Shane, just some stuff real quick that we need to be aware of. One is next Monday is the deadline to declare the intentions for the NFL draft. If you want to come out and be considered and drafted. So that's something to certainly keep in mind. I think another is basically we're a month away. We're actually less than the second signing period that will be going on, which is certainly coming up. A lot of stuff about expanding the playoff from the coaches meeting. The NCAA has delayed the name, image, and likeness. And obviously the transfer portal is going pretty strong right now. So Shane, no games, but there's a lot going on, right?
Yeah, and I think it's going to, like you said, something's always going on in college football. It's such a big business. Brent, before we jump into talking just stuff, let's get your thoughts. You're an Alabama guy. Obviously, you were pleased with the way the game went. But, Brent, I tell you what, man, I did a couple of tweets, which I don't tweet very often. I thought Steve Sarkisian may have called one of the best games I've ever seen from a scheming standpoint. His outside-the-box thinking, the way he got the ball to Devontae Smith. Your thoughts?
Well, it was masterful, and I think pretty much a lot of people have applauded and lauded him for what he did. The pre-snap motion that he's got these guys going in, being able to hit a plethora of receivers, even after Devontae Smith went out, and he had 12 catches for basically 250 yards. My goodness, Shane, if he doesn't get hurt, I wonder if he'd had 20 catches for 300 yards. So, but was able to get the ball a lot to Najee Harris. Now, Steve Sarkisian is in Texas, getting ready to make a go at it with that. Bama's trying to find a replacement for him. Bill O'Brien is one of the names mentioned. Who was at Penn State, was with the Texans. So, but plenty of work to do there. But again, amazingly, Shane, Bama's won 6 out of the last 12 national titles.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I saw some stat the other day, and I don't know if I still have it on my phone. Let me look real quick. It was it said that there have been 21 college football playoff games. 17 of them have been won by Alabama, Clemson, or Ohio State.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. And, people talk about expansion, and I do think there needs to be expansion, and I want to get your thoughts on what some of the coaches around the country are saying. Whether those first-round games are blowouts or not, who cares? Because could you imagine the excitement in this country this year that if, let's say, Coastal Carolina faces Alabama round 1. Now, we know they ain't going to win, but you never know.
Well, and that's why you play the game. And look, what we have the upsets we do in the NCAA tournament, we don't know. But the main thing is just to give these other schools some publicity and access. And that's the main thing about this to me, Shane, is having the playoff is is every conference would have access to very probably getting their champion into the playoffs, and you would have a certain amount of wild cards. And look, it's very obvious, and look no further than Florida and Oklahoma, that if that was a playoff game instead of a regular bowl game, how much more interest there would have been in that game, and probably how many more players on both sides would have played instead of opting out.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think expansion needs to come sooner rather than later when it comes to the college football playoffs. You mentioned the name, image, and likeness. You said it was postponed. Just briefly, Brent, fill our listeners in and our viewers that may not understand what that's all about. And the more that I think about this, I think I was talking to, I think it was last week, Tom Luganville was on.
Mm-hmm.
He's an ESPN recruiting analyst.
Yes.
And we talked about that. And I think I understand that the athlete should make some money off his image and likeness and all that. I get all that. I think it's getting ready to be a nightmare, though, when, local whoever Ford dealer wants to stroke a check or do a free lease for the quarterback. And then what's Tuscaloosa Ford dealership going to do to entice that kid to come there? Don't you think it's going to be a mess?
Well, I do. Now, I get the desire to do it. And again, what's happened here is that the NCAA was confronted with some new scrutiny from the Justice Department, and that caused them to table the vote. And they were basically going to do this and probably rubber stamp it in their January convention to allow student athletes to profit off their fame. Now that, it's drawn a lot of debate. There's no doubt about that. It's on the table as far as just being or has been tabled. Now, my understanding is the free waiver everyone was going to get, that's been tabled too. So and yet, a lot of people have said it's going to be a nightmare. A lot of people have said, well, there may not be but a handful of people even involved with this, and would it cause any kind of disharmony in the locker room among players? I think there's so many issues about this that we just don't quite understand yet. But for now, it has been postponed. We really don't know when it's going to be taken up again. We've heard that it may still be able to go through this year somehow, but I know they were likely going to take care of it during their convention. Would they have another convention, maybe virtually at some point, which is probably the thing they're doing now, but very possibly to deal with that. But for now, it has been tabled, and we will wait and see when it's brought up again.
Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. January is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane to receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with our good friend Brent Beaird here, talking college football. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Brent, the transfer portal, I'm trying to remember, what is this, year 2, year 3 for the transfer portal?
It is, I think it may be more 3. I know we had a little bit, it's certainly at least 2, if not 3. So we're still adjusting to it, but it is ramped up much more than what we thought it would.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because I was thinking about this. Some kids go into the transfer portal, and you hear about, last year Florida had a couple of good players come out of the transfer portal, and I'm sure other teams did as well. Trey Sermon went in the transfer portal, Ohio State. But I'm curious, and I haven't heard anybody do a story on this. There's hundreds and thousands of kids that go in this portal year in and year out. How many that go in there that just gave up free education, a free scholarship, that nobody else picked them up? I wonder how many there are.
I think there's probably more than we would even suspect. Because I've seen this on Twitter several times that we have more kids in the transfer portal than people would believe. And you're right. A lot of them think they're going to be greener pastures out there, and no one picks them up. So what do they do in the meantime? This is why. Listen, we'll have a player put his name in the transfer portal, and the next day he takes it out. So what does that mean? It probably means that he looked around, the situation he thought was going to work for him at the other school probably did not work, and he just decided, well, if there's a place for me, I want to come back. So that's a great question, and I'm guessing that we will see that story probably sooner than later.
Yeah. All right, Brent, let's hop around the SEC a little bit, talk about some coaching moves and how some teams have filled out their staff. Let's start with Auburn, with Brian Harsin, the new coach. He has Mike Bobo, who is now the offensive coordinator. Former Vandy head coach Derek Mason is now the defensive coordinator. Any other hires since the last time we talked to you there?
Yeah, Will Friend, who was at Tennessee. Then he went to now Auburn. So that's been a change. Friend played at Alabama, and he's kind of been around the league. He's a good coach. What happened on Wednesday was that Tracy Rocker left South Carolina, and I believe Auburn has poached, if we can use that word, 3 different South Carolina coaches. All's fair in love and war and recruiting and assistant coach transfers in the SEC. But Rocker's well known, a tremendous athlete at Auburn, won the Outland Lombardi, has been in some different schools. Kevin Steele, and one of the strangest things that we've seen in a while, has gone to Tennessee from Auburn. Well, we knew he wouldn't be on the staff because he obviously wanted the job. Brian Harsin got the job, so Kevin Steele at that point needs to go. But the reason I'm saying that it's strange that Shane, do you remember last week when they announced there was a hiring freeze at Tennessee? And then a week later, they hire Kevin Steele, who a lot of people think will eventually be the replacement probably for Jeremy Pruitt. And look, Auburn's lost a lot of players. They've lost Big Cat Bryant on the defensive line. Daquan Newkirk, also Cadillac Williams has been retained as a running backs coach, but they've lost DJ Williams to Florida State. So no doubt, most of the staff at Auburn now is there. But the 2 people may want to know about more than anything else would be Mike Bobo, who's been all over the conference, and also Derek Mason, who obviously was at Vanderbilt, the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator.
Yeah, so were you surprised? I want to say Kevin Steele played college ball at Tennessee, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I can see that, but there's so many issues going on at Tennessee right now. I still don't know if Jeremy Pruitt's going to be the coach. Were you surprised that Kevin Steele went to Tennessee?
Very much. But again, the thing we don't know there is going to be, there's a recruiting investigation at Tennessee. Well, what makes this even more strange is that Tennessee's doing its own internal investigation with this, something you rarely ever hear publicized very much, and bringing in some high-priced lawyers to deal with this. And the thought process is that Phil Fulmer, the AD, wants to get rid of Jeremy Pruitt and not have to pay him his buyout, because if you've got recruiting issues that are going on, there's something in most coaches' contract that says that they don't have to pay the buyout with that. So we'll keep our eye on that. And since we're talking about Tennessee, Jared Garantano, the starting quarterback often during last year, who was benched 3 times, if you can believe that, is transferring to Washington State, but Hendon Hooker from Virginia Tech, a quarterback, is transferring in. Matthew Butler, defensive lineman, says he is coming back. A guy we mentioned or alluded to a minute ago is an example of the transfer portal. One day after Sean Schamberger, who's a defensive back, entered the transfer portal, he withdrew his name. And then finally for Tennessee, Ty Chandler, who you remember is a pretty good running back for them, is transferred to North Carolina. So I tell you, Shane, there aren't many teams that are having as much roster and coaching situations going on as Tennessee.
No, and college football is getting more like college basketball by the day.
Yes.
Brent, any word out of LSU who they're looking at for defense coordinator?
They have got, to kind of catch people up with where that is. Now, obviously, Bo Pelini is gone. Jake Peets has been given a 2-year deal as offensive coordinator. I don't know if you know him or not, but he's been around the league a good bit. League meaning the NFL. Now, there nothing definitive yet as far as the defensive coordinator. DJ Mangus is the passing game coordinator at this point. They were going to hire Marcus Freeman, but Freeman ended up at Notre Dame, which is a big pickup for them. And as far as LSU was going to hire him to replace Bo Pelini as defensive coordinator, so that's still up in the air. Now, keep your eye on this one too, Shane. Eric Gilbert, who is a fabulous tight end that everybody wanted, is leaving LSU. Been some talk, and I'll just couch this as a rumor for now, but there's been some talk. I know Georgia's interested, Alabama recruiting him too, and Florida's name has been mentioned as of late. So, look, I mean, he is I'll put it this way, he has Kyle Pitts type potential.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's a tremendous athlete. There's no question. Brent, Florida hires Wesley McGriff, who's been around the SEC at a bunch of different schools. What can you tell us about him?
Well, he was also with Auburn as a secondary coach. I think he's widely regarded as a good teacher and a good recruiter. So I think that's important, and I think he's got a pretty good reputation for developing players. Now, the name, and I'm curious what you've heard about this, again, is Charlie Strong being mentioned. He was an analyst at Alabama, and we all know about Charlie and his history with Florida and other schools, but that's kind of still out there a little bit. I'm curious what you've heard about that. And obviously Brian Johnson being rumored for the Boise State job. He's done a really good job. His name is out there. And if Brian doesn't get something this year, Shane, I think his name will be mentioned probably for the next few years until something changes there.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see Charlie Strong coming here as an analyst, Brent. The reason, he had an opportunity to come last year, and Dan does these analysts a little different than a lot of other schools.
Right.
Whatever your specialty is, you go to the other side of the field to help them from a tendency standpoint. So
sure.
where Charlie was an analyst for the defensive staff, because that's what he knows in Alabama, if he were to come here, he's going to be working with the offense, breaking down, what can a defense do to us offensively to hurt us, and I'm not sure he wants to do that. That's just my gut feel.
Yeah, and I also wonder, Shane, how much consideration would he be given for maybe another position on the defense?
Well, that's true. That's true, because there is, I think, one more spot open on the defense. Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got you. No, I could see that happening. Sometimes these guys, they can only be an analyst for so long.
Absolutely.
Because I had Ron Zook on yesterday, and he's an analyst. He's been an analyst the last 2 years at Maryland, and it drives him crazy because he can't coach.
Sure.
You have to just basically, he said, I get paid to walk around and kill grass at practice. So anyway, Brent, Miami got a huge player out of the transfer portal, in my opinion, the Rambo wide receiver from Oklahoma. Not sure why he transferred, decided to go to Miami. Got any reason why he chose the Hurricanes?
I think he probably playing with Derek King would have something to do with that. The quarterback is coming back, which is interesting. I mean, they've got some good players. Mike Harley, one of their better receivers, is also coming back. Now they're losing Brevin Jordan, the tight end, to the NFL. Now, one thing that Gator fans may or may not have heard is Travarius Robinson, who was rumored to be coming to Florida in some capacity, and was also at South Carolina, has now landed at Miami. So that's where that is where he is going to be. But you're right. That is a look. Anybody who's a receiver for Oklahoma who's been in that offense over the last year or so, and what Spencer Riley runs. Shane, that's a great point. That's a big pickup for the Canes, is it not?
Well, it is, and maybe there's a little bit more there that we're not familiar with, but I don't know why, as a wide receiver, you leave the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The way they throw the football. Brent, you got any other nuggets for us?
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and I'll give you a little bit of everything here real quick. James Blackman from Florida State is in the transfer portal. I give him a lot of credit. He did a nice job. We did mention for Florida State, DJ Williams leaving Auburn to go to also Florida State. A&M is losing a lot of guys to the NFL. Buddy Johnson, who is one of their linebackers. Also Jared Hawker, who is one of their better offensive linemen. Kellen Mond is indeed passing up any more eligibility to go to the NFL. I'm curious if that surprised you or not. Bobby Brown, the defensive lineman, is also going to the NFL too. Now, again, we mentioned this losses for Shane Beamer on his staff. He's hiring offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield as his offensive coordinator and also quarterback coach. Missouri has added Mookie Cooper, who's a wide receiver. Trey Williams, their defensive end, is transferring to Houston. Kentucky's losing Nick Scalzo. He's a quarterback to the transfer portal. Also, and again, the senior wide receiver at LSU, John Trey Kirkland, is returning for his senior year, and Ray Thornton, the linebacker, is going to be transferring. So he's also with LSU. So you lose some and gain some. Georgia, just real quick, Justin Schaefer is coming back for his senior year. Defensive tackle Jordan Davis is coming back for his senior year. Tyson Campbell, the cornerback's going to the NFL. Karis Jackson is coming back next year. That's a big plus for them, as is Jamari Saylor at left tackle. He'll be back for Georgia too. So, and listen, Shane, brother, I could go on all day long with nuggets, but that's a few of the things that is going on. But I ask you this ever because of the wide range of network that you've got. Any of those names we mentioned ring a bell for you?
Yeah, just a few. So, it's going to be wide open. It's crazy. It's like it's NFL free agency now on steroids, pretty much. So,
yes.
Brent, we appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you next week. Be safe and enjoy the NFL playoffs this weekend.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it much. Take care.
Yep. That's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan MR hotline at Center State Bank. We put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we're going to crank up the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parrish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to a Thursday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Celebration Points, where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Nike, Sensei, Prime and Pearl, opening soon, Dave & Buster's, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators come to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to crank up the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. We're going to be joined by Coach Steve Faulkner from Columbia High School up in Lake City. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Doing well, Shane. How are you doing, bud?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Coach, first of all, appreciate you joining the program. I know it's been very tough on high school coaches these days. You know, we had a bunch of high school cancellations in football. How's it been with all the COVID issues for high school basketball teams?
A hot mess. It's literally become a day by day thing. You know, I was talking with some coaching buddies, just the other day, and it's like, all these schedules that we have right now are all tentative. Everything's fluid, which was kind of similar to the way football went. It's, I think the problem we're having with basketball is it just being the confined environment. So it's a little easier to, I guess, pass on this virus. And once you get one that gets it on your team and you rode a bus to a certain place, you got to quarantine them all. And that's what happened to us in the middle of December.
And so right now you've been able to play 10 games. You sit at 7-3. Are you pleased the way the season has gone so far?
Oh, yeah. Given all that we've been through, we got the football players back on a Monday, and then the following Monday we were quarantined. Mm-hmm. So for all those dual sport people out there, it takes them a couple weeks to kind of transition to the sport that they're in now. So, before we could do that, we were quarantined. So, we got back right after Christmas. So now we've had a couple weeks of consistent practice and getting back into a schedule. Being able to play games, but now we're in the spot now where we're trying to make up games that we lost, in December. So you kind of losing practice time. I'm learning this year a new level of patience that I think a lot of us high school coaches are. You got to kind of just go with the flow. There's a lot of things that are out of our control, and you can't stress about it. You just got to do the best you can with the time you have you guys in the gym every day. And just keep hopefully improving each day. That's kind of our goal right now.
Coach, talk about some of your players that have had a pretty good season so far.
The first was Charleston Pons. He's a senior, 6'4" guard for us. He's started for us last year on the Final Four team. He was kind of more or less a role player for us last year with those seniors we had. But he's taken the reins of being our leader this year. And he's averaged about 19 a game through those 10 games. Had 17 last night at GHS. He's just, on top of being a really good basketball player and going to be a college basketball player, he's just a super kid. Just, great kid, good in the classroom, never an issue. So he's been fantastic for us. And then it's the football kids. We've got, last night I started 4 guys that were on the football team. Two of them are defensive backs, and Dante Brown and Amari Farrell. Then Trey Tolliver was a wide receiver, and then Marcus Peterson, who was our quarterback / wide receiver / punter / punt returner. I mean, he's just did it all. So I'm blessed with some really good athletes. We're at the point now where we're trying to transition them into being a little bit better basketball players. But we're headed in the right direction. I think we got a chance to have a pretty good year if we don't get interrupted again.
So, Coach, briefly tell us. I think we had Mike Rideout a couple of weeks ago was telling us how the basketball playoffs are the same. Y'all, not everybody makes them like they did in football, correct?
Yeah. The only difference is this year. Well, let me back up. Last year we went to the new rankings thing. So
correct.
Last year with your district, you were seeded for your district tournament based on your Max Preps rankings. That is staying the same. But what they also did last year was if you won your district, you're automatically a 1 through 4 seed. The 5 through 8s are what you would be, for lack of a better term, wild cards. The next highest ranked 4 teams, not a district winner, would be in. So you could get multiple teams from one district in that regional playoff. This year, they're going back to what we did prior to that new system. So if you win your district tournament, you'll host the first round. If you're the runner-up in your district tournament, you will travel to a district winner in the first round.
Gotcha.
So it's been kind of, a mess. I liked the new system last year, but then I do get why they have to kind of alter it this year because, it's going to be rare that everybody's going to get to play the same amount of games.
Yeah, no doubt. So right now, how many more regular season games do you have on your schedule remaining? 13 left. 13, and so then after that you'll have the district tournament. Then we'll go playoffs. Okay, all right. So we got about 3 more weeks of the regular season. 4 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, I guess 3.5. I've got 3 more this week, then 3 next week, 4 the next week, then 3 the next week. So it's packed, and as you can see, there's not a whole lot of time in there to practice when you're playing so many games.
No doubt.
We have 3.5 weeks regular season.
Yep. So y'all sit at 7-3. We'll get you on in a couple of weeks when it gets closer to the playoff time. Appreciate you joining the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. Good luck to the Tigers.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you for having us, and thank you for what you're doing for high school sports.
Yes, sir. That's Coach Steve Faulkner from Columbia. Now we're going to head down to PK Young and talk a little girls basketball. We're now joined on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup, head basketball coach of the PK Young Lady Wave, Coach Willie Powers. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good. I've been better.
I hear you. All right, Coach. So if I'm not mistaken, y'all sit at 2-2. You've only played 4 games this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about that, I know it's been rough on all the coaches, with COVID and stuff, especially in basketball. A ton of games are getting canceled. But first, we want to congratulate you. You got your 500th career win as a basketball coach. Talk a little bit about that moment.
It was a great moment with a bunch of young ladies who really have worked their tails off to be, compatible and able to compete at a high level. We're the youngest I've had in a long time. And, it was just glad to win it with them because they've done it the right way.
Who did you beat for your 500th win?
Madison County.
Okay, so did you keep the basketball and paint it up and all that good stuff?
Yeah, actually, the girls painted one up for me, and the score was 50-42, which is pretty ironic because 50 is a number around here that we really take serious because of the loss of my brother-in-law. So that was kind of ironic that we scored 50 points to win the game. So maybe he was looking down on me.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So, Coach, like you said, you got a young girls team this year. You sit at 2-2. What have you been impressed with your team so far in this young season?
Well, they actually try to do what you tell them to do. And, as a coach, that's what you want more than winning and losing is your kids to believe in what you say and actually do what you ask them to do. So that, that has been one of the most, things that I've been so impressed with these young ladies is they're coming out trying to do what we ask them to do every day. But, with this COVID, we've been in some pretty bad predicaments. So, we've been off and on, off and on, off and on. So, it hurts the growth that we had going into the year.
So how many more regular season games y'all have left at PK Young scheduled?
We have 5, but we're not going to play those because we're in quarantine right now again.
Oh, wow.
I missed the last game being in quarantine. So it's one of those things where it's hit or miss. And I feel so bad for the young ladies because they keep going 2 steps forward and they'll take 3 steps back because we can't do anything.
So y'all are done for the year. You're not going to keep competing? I think we come off. We should come off in time enough to get to district. So. Oh, okay. So I misunderstood you. So yeah, you'll be ready for the district tournament.
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
So you'll have a young team that hasn't played very much going into the district tournament. Who's in your district?
St. Joe's, who is undefeated right now, Oak Hall, Interlochen, Trinity Catholic, and us.
Okay. You got any players that you're excited about, maybe the future, work ethic, or have a chance to maybe play at the next level once they become seniors?
Yeah, we have one senior, Grace Cox, who's played well. We have a 7th grader who's playing, Ashley Young, who's playing really, really well right now, and also a sophomore, Alazia Wilcox, and a junior, Sydney English, who's played well. DeAndre Goldwire has played well as a junior. So, the future is bright. So that, that's one good thing. We're looking, the future is bright. We only have one senior, Grace Cox, who, has had a, crazy year, only playing 4 games of the senior year. But, that's just how it goes right now.
Well, awesome. Well, Coach, we wish y'all a lot of luck the rest of the year. I know it's been tough this year. I know you enjoy coaching high school ball. You've been a tremendous coach for a long time. We'll get you on when it gets a little closer to playoff time. All you folks get well over at PK Young, and we wish the Lady Wave a lot of luck.
All right, thanks. And thanks for all y'all do for girls basketball.
All right, that's Coach Willie Powers joining us on the Titan MR hotline. Now we're going to be joined by the ESAM Rams head basketball coach, Pop Williams. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Shane. How about yourself?
Can't complain. Appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. Coach, you sit at 12-1. You probably got the best ball club in this area. Just talk about, you've played a bunch of games. There's some teams that only play 5 or 6 games. How y'all been pretty healthy, I would assume. How's the season gone so far?
Yeah, we lost one of the players with an accident that happened to his hand. He was like our 6th man. So, we've been doing pretty good. The kids been kind of molding together. Got a bunch of new faces, and it's kind of been kind of tough right now. We're kind of struggling a little bit, but we're getting over that hump, winning a little bit. But we're still trying to kind of get them to feel each other.
Coach, you're 12-1.
Yeah. But, with me at Eastside, I expect a lot more, especially on the defensive end of the court. We got to get a lot better on defense and rebounding.
Yeah, so your one loss came to Santa Fe, which I believe they have a D1 recruit headed to NC State. Yeah. Did he just tear y'all up that night, or was it just a bad night for the Rams?
The score was tight with a minute to go. One of the new kids, I called a timeout. One of the new kids got the ball, and we told him to keep it out for the last shot. He tried to pass it at the ground and went out of bounds. Santa Fe got it, and they went on. I guess from then on went up like a 3-point, and then that's when the game winded up 3 points.
Okay, so Coach, as I mentioned, you've played 13 games, which is a lot during this COVID. Y'all been fortunate to stay healthy. Who are some of the kids that have played pretty well so far in the year for you?
Well, we got Javi Gainey. He's a senior. He's averaging about 16, 17 points a game. We have what's his name? Trying to think of these young kids' names. I'm still Jaheim Smith. He's a senior. He's about 6'5", 6'6". He's doing real well. So did Ozzy Gainey. We got a couple of kids that's really even score across the board. It's almost like a really good team effort that we was getting from those kids. So, and it's kind of helping us on this little stretch.
When you look at the rest of your schedule before district play starts, who are some of the teams on your schedule that probably give you all a little competition could be tough beating?
Well, I think everybody, because you got, you're going into the second half of the season with a 13-1 record. Everybody wants to knock you out. Everybody's on Facebook. Everybody got tape of you. So in this part of the season, it's really tough. But Phantom Fate, GHS, any one of them, I don't put nothing past anyone because it depends on how your team playing that night. Sometimes you see teams twice. And the first time you play well, the second time, you feel like you don't want to play or whatever. So it's the second part of the season for everybody, even Phantom Fate, it's tough.
Coach, I believe you played in, I had Dan Cross on. He had his tournament here in the Gainesville area called the Florida Get Down Showcase. I believe y'all played in that tournament. There was a lot of good teams from all over the place.
Yeah. Real good.
Did that playing in that tournament make your team better?
Yeah, the competition was great, man. Dan had been trying to, enter us, a couple of years back, and I kind of already had my schedule. And I told him, once I get that available, dates that we can play, and this was the year. And he put us against some good competition, man. I loved it. And then watching some of the other games, it was nice.
Coach, before we let you go, with the whole COVID thing, I don't know how many games you've had canceled. It doesn't seem like many. You've played 13. I'm sure you've had some.
We had Buchholz earlier and Newberry.
Okay, so you've only had a couple. How hard has it been? Because I know during football season how difficult it was on high school football coaches, and I imagine it's the same on you guys. How difficult of a year has this been for you? You've been coaching a long time. Has this been one of the most difficult years?
Yes, because, the school take temperatures early in the morning, and then I take it for practice. And, I stress every day, if you're sick, don't come to practice or nothing. Don't even try to come to practice, if you're feeling bad. And I keep them spaced out in practice. We're not huddled up pretty much in practice. They're around the court and just keep the distance. Even when they're waiting for practice, they always, and they do a good job about, doing the thing that they need to do with the team. Mask is on. If you want to, practice with your mask, that's fine. And then we let 3 in the locker room at a time. So we've been doing a good job of what we do. And if they come in with a temperature, I let them go see the trainer because sometimes the little temperature going don't register the same kind that the trainers have. And that's been working out pretty good for us so far.
Are the high school basketball teams taking buses these days, or y'all like having parents take them to the games?
Well, what we do is the parents, kids can't ride with kids if another kid's drive, but their parents can take them. But if their kid has a car, he has to go alone. And if a player goes with one of the coaches, we require, masks the whole time and blah, 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 blah. So we don't, we really don't have that, problem with, most of the kids because most of them have cars and like probably 1 or 2 of them probably ride with the coach.
Yeah, but I knew a lot of teams this year with COVID have, stayed away from the bus rides because it can spread. So, Coach, I tell you what, I appreciate you joining us here. Good luck to the Rams. We're going to have you back on when it gets a little bit closer to district time, okay?
Okay, thanks for having me on, Shane.
Yep, that's Coach Pop Williams. Join us on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. We're now joined by Marvelous Marty Paulman, one of the members of the PrepZone.com. Good morning, Marty. How are you?
Morning, QB. Good to be with you.
Absolutely. Well, we're in full force now with high school basketball. I know there's been a bunch of cancellations. Just previously had a couple of high school coaches on. Talk a little bit about some of the games y'all broadcast last week here in the area.
Well, as you know, Shane, you mentioned just getting kind of into the new year and really holiday tournaments. It's always a busy time around Christmas and New Year's for high school basketball. And this year, even with COVID, it was still pretty busy, even though we didn't have the Kingdom of the Sun in Ocala this year, or the Hitchcock's Classic in Alachua. But last week was a busy week, and we saw Gainesville play Buchholz after they had lost to Santa Fe last Tuesday. They took on Buchholz Friday night, first of 2 games in that rivalry, and the game that we broadcast on the Prep Zone. And Buchholz hung in there. They hung in pretty well. They actually led going into the fourth quarter of that game, but GHS caught up with them and beat Buchholz. Ended up forcing overtime, the game over at Buchholz at Bud Seymour Gymnasium. And as it turned out, Buchholz lost that game in OT. Gainesville pulled away to win by 8. So that rivalry has been pretty one-sided. Gainesville's now beaten Buchholz 26 out of the last 29. Hard to believe there. And Gainesville's won 12 in a row. And Buchholz has a first-year coach there, Georgia Toy, taking over for Bob Hrdusky, and they've only played now 8 games after losing to Eastside on Tuesday night. So Buchholz had some COVID issues. They missed about a month there in December, didn't play a game for about a month. So Buchholz is kind of getting into their season. GHS, they've been up and down. They were 7-5, now 7-6 after losing to Columbia Tuesday night. And so those two teams are kind of finding their way right now. But if you look around the area, it seems like the two dominant teams right now are Eastside, and then up in Lake City, Columbia is really starting to play well. Eastside is 12-1 after beating Buchholz at home on Tuesday night.
Yeah, we just previously had on Coach Faulkner from Columbia and Coach Williams from Eastside. Marty, so as you said, it's still kind of early, mid-season, I guess. A lot of teams had a bunch of cancellations. From the games that you have seen or the people that you've covered or talked to, who's the best team in this area?
Well, I would say definitely got to go with Eastside at this point. I mean, they've won 9 in a row. Their only loss actually coming to Santa Fe. That was really early December. That was an overtime game. And they've won 9 in a row since then. And really the only games that they've had that have been close, they went to overtime with Calvary Christian from Clearwater and then that Dan Cross tournament at St. Francis Catholic. That was on New Year's Day. And then they did have a game in North Florida Educational Institute out of Jacksonville last weekend at their Dante Anderson Memorial Classic that they host every year. And that was a 3-point game. Eastside came back to win against a pretty good 2A team there. So Eastside right now rolling along at 12-1. Now they are going to host GHS this Friday night, and that's another game that we will broadcast on the Prep Zone. So the first of 2 meetings with their city rival Gainesville. And by the way, those games aren't going to be at Santa Fe College this year. Usually Eastside and Gainesville play at Santa Fe. Mm-hmm. But for the fact that Santa Fe is just starting their volleyball and basketball seasons because of COVID, they're going to be at campus site this year. But Eastside, they're rolling right now. Again, Santa Fe, their only loss, and they're going to get a rematch with Santa Fe a week from Friday, a week from tomorrow in Alachua. And then Santa Fe might be the next team to look for. And they lost 3 games at a tournament right before Christmas over in Orange Park and Fleming Island. It's some good teams. But with that NC State signing, Ernest Ross, he's listed at 6'9", but he plays over 7 feet. Santa Fe is a team that I think has a chance to go a long way. Of course, they both play in the same district, so that's the only issue, is that Eastside and Santa Fe, along with North Marion, makes for a pretty tough district for those 3 teams.
Speaking of Ernest Ross, as you mentioned, the NC State signee, how good a player is he? I mean, obviously he's a good player going to play Division I basketball, but how tall did you say he was, Marty?
He's listed at 6'9". Of course, he plays, and the thing is too, if you talk to a coach, he's said that when he signed that he thinks he's going to get a chance to play even some 1 or 2 at NC State. Who knows? He might grow into that. The only thing I would say that he needs to put on some weight probably, but he just has probably, but a long wingspan. I mean, and he's averaging 25 points this year, 13 rebounds. And also the other thing, Santa Fe has a pretty good point guard in Dontrell Jenkins, but Ernest Ross himself causes a lot of problems for a lot of teams. And I think that's what's going to be able to bring Santa Fe probably a longer run in the playoffs this year. But if you watch Ernest Ross, he's made really from last year to this year a lot of improvements in his game, even from his junior year to his senior year. And he's become a pretty dominant force for Santa Fe.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Marvelous Marty Paulman here on the Titan Emerald Hotline. He's with the PrepZone.com. He does a tremendous job, he and Mike Rideout, covering high school sports. Marty, have you seen a lot of the smaller, the Newberries, the Trentons of the world, any of those teams this year?
Yeah, I had a chance to broadcast some Trenton games. I haven't seen Newberry yet, but Newberry is off to a good start as well, though, and interested to see how they are. Williston as well. But of course, the team you're going to want to watch in 1A again is Hawthorne. Looking forward to seeing Hawthorne down the stretch. And I think with some MLK Classics coming up this weekend, I have a chance maybe to see them. And Hawthorne's going to be hosting one of those coming up next Monday as well. So, but I think Hawthorne, even though their record hasn't been great, they've had the issue with having to, as a lot of the 1A schools do, they got to get those football players back in shape. A lot of them play basketball, but I think Greg Bowie's getting his team back in shape at Hawthorne. I think the same thing's probably going on with Newberry. But, Hawthorne's 6-4, but they're coming off a win over Bradford by 22 points. That's a pretty good win. But yeah, Newberry's another team to watch too. They've been playing well. But Hawthorne's got a big game against that North Florida Educational Institute team on Friday. Then they're going to host an MLK Classic coming up, and then they play Newberry Tuesday. And Newberry 8-3. One of those losses came to Gainesville, and then they also lost to Williston at a tournament. And Williston's another team to watch as well. They're 10-3 after a win last night over Bronson. So we've got some 1A teams in the area that are off to pretty good starts. But I think Hawthorne's the one, and we look at that on the girls' side as well. Hawthorne and both the boys and the girls defending state champs, and the Hawthorne girls team also starting to really play well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because I had Willie Powers on earlier. He's only been able to play 4 games. They've had a lot of COVID issues at PK, and you brought up Hawthorne. Both their boys and girls won state titles last year. Girls team has a chance to make some noise as well.
Yeah, I think Hawthorne, and they returned most of their players this year, and Cornelius Dingler, CI, coaching that team as well. I think so. I mean, so far, they've only lost 3 games. They're off to a 9-3 start, and 2 of those losses came to 7A schools, and another one last weekend came to a 4A school in Range from Jacksonville. They're always good. So I think Hawthorne is set up for another run, but you want to watch out for Trenton. Trenton's another team in 1A. I've had a chance to see them a few times this year. They won the state title 2 years ago in 1A, and they've got a pretty stacked team this year as well. And Wildwood, a little bit out of our area, but Wildwood's going to be another team that's going to challenge as well for 1A. So, yeah, I think Hawthorne's going to have a couple of teams that are going to challenge, and one of those is going to be in this area, maybe with Trenton.
Last thing for you, Marty, let everybody know what games y'all are broadcasting this week at theprepzone.com.
Well, Friday night we will be at Eastside for Eastside in Gainesville, and we will be on the air at 7 o'clock at theprepzone.com. We'll have streaming video of that Eastside Gainesville matchup, 7:30 tip for that. And then right now, to be determined, we hope to have some action Saturday from the MLK Classic at Forest High School in Ocala. Still trying to work that out, but that's the plan right now. So that's what's coming up this week at the Prep Zone.
Good stuff, Marty. Appreciate it. That's Marty Paulman from theprepzone.com. Be safe, my man.
Thanks, Shane. Good talking to you as always.
Yep, we're going to take our second time out of the program. When we come back, we'll wrap up this Thursday edition. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, and Dowling Signs. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank all our high school coaches, Marty Palmer, for joining the program. Also, our good friend, Brent Beaird. Comfort Temp at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchased, $199 value. Service departments open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This day in sports in 1982, Hank Aaron and Frank Robinson are both elected to the Hall of Fame. Last thing, tomorrow's show, make sure you tune in. We're going to have JC, obviously. We'll do some Peachland Dentistry, JC and the QB Weekend Picks. We're also going to have Pete Prisco, who covers the NFL, talking playoffs. Be safe out there, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.